Hello bachcho, let's see passage 2. Passage 2 says the offence of abduction is defined under section 362 of Indian Penal Code. Legally, abduction refers to compelling or deceitfully inducing someone to go to one compelling. Second is deceitfully inducing someone to go from one place to another against their will or consent with the intention to commit some connected offence. Two essential ingredients to constitute abduction are: first is the use of force, coercion, or any deceitful means to procure the person. This may range from outright physical force to fraudulently making false representation to lure the person. Second is the movement of the victim from one location to another location based on coercion or deceit rather than consent. The intention to facilitate the commission of another offence linked to the moving of the victim also completes at the act. A key aspect differentiating abduction from voluntary accompanying someone is the consent. तो जो abduction है उसमें consent absent होता है, यहाँ पे सामने वाले इंसान का consent नहीं लिया जाता है. The consent of the victim negates the criminality in the act. For instance, if a woman willingly goes with a man from one place to another, like in eloping cases, consent becomes evidence, so abduction charges do not apply. However, the line between consent and deceit can blur, especially in the trafficking or kidnapping of vulnerable persons. Hence, court relies strongly on demonstrating the accused's intention to procure victim for further exploitation. तो कोर्ट कंसेंट की बजाय अक्यूज के इंटेंशंस पे ज्यादा ध्यान देती है, क्योंकि कंसेंट बहुत बार ट्रिकी हो सकता है प्रूव करने के लिए. Additionally, abduction relies on the means used rather than actual movement. A physical force like tying up the victim, or verbal deceit like promising a better life to lure victims, each qualify as the means. But simply threatening force rather than applying it does not satisfy the criteria. The means also continue till the victim reaches the destination, so the abduction is considered a continuing offense. तो जो abduction है वो एक continuing offense होता है, क्योंकि ये continuously कंटिन्यू होता रहता है जब तक एक विक्टिम डेस्टिनेशन तक पहुंच नहीं जाता है. मूवमेंट फ्रॉम वन house to the port still counts based on providing the deceit and motivation, if not actual distance traveled. Overall, abduction centers on illegal deprivation of consent, coercion in means used, and intention to facilitate connected unlawful activity through such procurement. Court analyzes this aspect in determining the guilt and sentencing with higher penalties based on the vulnerability of the victim. Thus, abduction law seeks to uphold citizens' right to liberty, movement without force, fraud, and exploitation. Let's see the questions now. Question number 6 says, according to section 362 of the IPC, what constitutes abduction and how it is different from voluntary movement? A says abduction involves compelling someone to move against their will using force, coercion, or deceitful means with the intent to commit another committed offense. The key distinction from voluntary movement lies in the absence of victim's consent. This is a perfectly right option, because as we have seen in the passage, abduction is when someone moves against their will by the force, coercion, or deceitful means in order to get to commit another connected offense, and the main distinction is on victim's consent that is not present in abduction. B says abduction is defined solely by the physical movement of a person from one place to another regardless to the means used. Consent becomes irrelevant in determining the criminality of the act. This is a wrong option, because all the three statements are wrong. Abduction में movement important नहीं है, even though it might be movement from house to the balcony, it can be termed as abduction. Means is very important, and consent is not irrelevant, though it is given less weightage. C says the abduction applies only when physical force is applied. This is again a wrong option. In abduction का necessary element नहीं है physical force. D says abduction ceases once the victim reaches the intended destination regardless of the means used to intend to the commit offense. This is again a wrong option, because we have seen in the passage that abduction is a continuing offense and it continues even after after when the victim reaches the destination. Let's see question number 7. It says Rahul, a college student, invited Ria, fellow student, to party. Ria, unaware of Rahul's intention, arrive at the location. However, upon reaching, she realizes the party is in secluded area and there are no other attendees. Rahul insists she stays using persuasive words, but Ria feels uncomfortable and wishes to leave. Considering the scenario, is Rahul liable for abduction? A says yes, Rahul is liable for abduction. This is a wrong option because here there is no specific mention of deceitful means, force, coercion, etc., which are necessary elements for abduction. B says no, Rahul is not liable for abduction. This is the right option due to the reasons mentioned in option number A. C says yes, if Riya feels uncomfortable, Rahul is automatically liable for abduction. This is a wrong option because consent, force, deceitful, these are important elements to judge abduction, and not just the feeling automatically makes it abduction. D says no, unless Rahul uses physical force to keep Riya against her will, he is not liable for abduction. This is again a wrong option because even he might not use the physical force, there are essential conditions. If fulfilled, it will amount to abduction. Let's see the eighth question. It says Tina, university professor, requests her student Raj to meet her in the office to discuss his recent exam performance. Once inside the office, Tina locks the door and insists Raj stays, claiming an important academic matter to address. Raj, feeling uneasy and repeatedly expressing a strong desire to leave, finds the door locked. Considering the scenario, is Tina liable for abduction? In A says no, Tina is not liable for abduction. This is the right option because a act done by the professor of a university and a act done with the criminal intent are two different acts, and here Tina, as in the capacity of the university professor, might have asked Raj to meet due to the important academic matter and cannot be termed as abduction. But even this can't be termed as abduction if Raj feels uneasy and uncomfortable in the present scenario. This situation should have been reported to the university authorities. B says no, Tina is liable for abduction. This is a wrong option because she is not liable for abduction. C says yes, if Raj feels uneasy, Tina is automatically liable for abduction. She is not liable for abduction, but if Raj feels uneasy, he can surely uh, tell the concerned matter to the authorities. So this is again a wrong option. D says no, unless Tina uses physical force to keep Raj against his will. This is again a wrong option. Physical force is not an essential element. Let's see the ninth question. It says John promises a job opportunity to lure an 18-year-old girl to a distant location and then forces her into prostitution. Can John be culpable of abducting the girl as per section 362? A says no, as the girl was a major and gave the consent. This is a wrong option because abduction can also happen against the major, and here the consent was not given. It was a deceitful act which lured the girl. B says no, actual movement does not constitute abduction. This is again a wrong option. There can be an actual movement, there cannot be an actual movement. There is no such criteria for constituting the abduction. C says yes, as deceit was used to induce the girl. This is the right option because she was deceived and her wrongful consent was taken. She was not known of the scenario, and this will amount to abduction. D says yes, as exploiting girls is a crime. This is a wrong option, although the option is right, but the reasoning is wrong. Let's see the last question. That says Amit asks his friend Sheetal to meet him at the mall to hang out. Sheetal agrees and voluntarily accompanies him to the mall. Later, her parents file abduction charges against Amit for taking Sheetal without informing them. Is Amit liable for abducting Sheetal under 362? A says yes, as Sheetal is a minor. This is a wrong option because just the fact that the person is minor does not make the case as abduction. There are intention that need to be justified while making the act as abduction. B says yes, as parental consent was not. This is again a wrong option because parental consent is not necessary when the victim itself is giving its own consent. So this is also a wrong option. C says no, as Sheetal voluntarily agreed to it. This is a right option because this amounts as the lawful consent and the person cannot be termed as taken away illegally. D says no, as they merely traveled within the mall. This is again a wrong option. Even they might have merely traveled within the mall, but if the other essentials are followed and complied with, this will become the case of abduction. So I hope the passage was understandable. The questions were easy to interpret. All the very best.